Welcome back to another tabletop review. Today we'll look at the Ruger Mark IV 22-45 tactical pistol. Since Ruger began production of its standard rim-fired .22 pistols in 1949, it has produced millions of these firearms in a variety of formats. In the world of target shooting, blinking, and even among small game hunting or sporting enthusiasts, Ruger Mark pistols, as they're called, were the most successful .22 caliber semi-automatic handguns for many decades after World War II. It was this successful basic blowback pistol design that helped Ruger become one of the most successful gun manufacturers in the world. But there's a lot of competition in the .22 handgun market, and it's growing every day. Ruger has enjoyed a good reputation for its .22s as sturdy, reliable, and accurate firearms, but it also has a reputation for being one of the most difficult guns to maintain. Ruger's most recent design variation of its classic .22 Mark pistol, the Mark IV, like this .22-45 tactical model, released in 2017, was enthusiastically welcomed by many who loved the Ruger but hated the challenge posed by the complicated disassembly and reassembly procedures. Ruger's solution is just plain brilliant, as we'll see. But the question is, are the changes Ruger made to the Mark IV enough to maintain competitive in the crowded .22 pistol market? And is this .22-45 tactical model as good a gun as it might look? Let's make sure this gun is cleared first. So I usually begin with my answering the question why I bought this gun, but in this case, this is not one that I bought. Of all the videos I've made, this is only the second one in which I don't own the gun I'm reviewing. So while I usually have spent quite a bit of time with a firearm before I review it, I'll admit that in this case, I can only do sort of a first impressions review. This is also one of the few guns that I've actually been requested to review, so it does make this review sort of special in that regard as well. Anyhow, I'd like to put out a special thank you to my good friend Larry, who so graciously and enthusiastically loaned me his Ruger Mark IV .22-45 tactical for this video. Without his help, this video wouldn't have been possible. Usually we cover packaging at this time, but I didn't get the box that this came from. As I understand it, the Ruger Mark IVs all come with two 10-round magazines. Now, a few months back, I reviewed the classic Ruger Mark III Standard. I actually have that pistol right here, so let's just lay it out. During that video, I did a fairly detailed history of the Ruger semi-automatic .22 blowback design pistol. Ruger basically dominated the market after World War II with this design. And although there are millions of these pistols out there, even today they continue to be well respected, and as such, they continue to hold their value fairly well. It really is amazing. Now, that being said, I'm not surprised that when I look back at that video I made on the Mark III, that a good portion of that film covers the disassembly and reassembly process of this gun. It's just crazy how complicated the process is. Even for those of us that have done it many times, I admit that it's common for me to mess it up and have to start over. It's not impossible, but it can be frustrating. Enough so that it could cause owners to hesitate to take the gun out, or worse yet, to say it's not worth that aggravation and either sell it or trade it off. After many decades, Ruger finally responded to that complaint in its release of the Mark IV, like this one. And as we'll see in a moment, I think they did a great job without taking away from all the Ruger Mark elements that people liked. Specifications on this .22-45 tactical model includes a blued 4.4-inch alloyed steel barrel and a machined steel frame that includes an overall length of 8.4 inches. It features a top and bottom Picatinny rail for attaching tactical accessories. The height is 5.5 inches. The width is 1.2 inches. Unloaded weight is 34.6 ounces. The rear sights are fully adjustable. The safety is here, and it's ambidextrous. The 1911 style grips that come on this .22-45 model are checkered synthetic. These are Hogue grips that have been added by the owner, and they are very, very nice. Mag release is here. And yes, there's a magazine disconnect that prevents the gun from being fired when the magazine has been removed. This model features a half-inch 28 thread barrel pattern for popular muzzle accessories. It has a threaded protector here. In addition to the differences for takedown between these two models, the difference between the Mark IV and the earlier models like this Mark III are shown here in the size and the location of the safety. The safety on the Mark III is sort of a button, and here we have something more like a lever, and it's ambidextrous on the Mark IV. Also, the slide release is actually fairly large, and it's a nice shape, and it's got a good feel to it, versus a relatively small piece of bent steel here that was on the earlier models. I saw these as really good improvements. Pretty much in terms of issues like the trigger and the mechanisms and so forth, they're very, very similar. As for my range experience with this gun, I like the looks of the 2245 tactical version. I like the 2245 1911 style grips, and Larry's addition of the Hoe grips was an excellent choice. This gun feels great in my hands. The gun seems to have a reasonable balance, and I really like the location of the controls. The magazine is a traditional Ruger style with a very good loading assist, and you kind of need that knob here for these very stiff magazines. Nice base that fits flush without question when that's properly seated, but it does fly out upon release. The gun is fun to shoot too. The trigger is good, but I don't think it's as good as one of my Buckmarks or Smith & Wesson Model 22As, or even my old Mark III, and that kind of surprised me. I was told that the trigger pull was supposed to be about 3 pounds, but this one feels a little heavier, but it's still a good trigger. I shot CCI mini mags and a few Federal bulk rounds, no problems with either. I shot it both with and without a suppressor. This is my Silencer Co. Warlock 22 suppressor. Worked extremely well with this gun. The sights were good, muzzle lift was minimal, and the target acquisition was good. It's an accurate enough gun for the length of barrel. Keeping my hits within a 2-inch spread at 20 feet was no problems, and rapid fire between multiple 4-inch targets at the same distance was a piece of cake and a lot of fun. Operationally, the gun was flawless. As for cons, as I've heard about the Mark III, the Mark IV's magazine disconnect is something not everyone likes. I've said this about the Mark III. I see the Mark IV as a target plinking gun, so that doesn't really bother me all that much. Okay, I said the trigger wasn't terrific, but in practice, it was really fine on the range. The ambidextrous safety was a problem for me because my hand would accidentally bump the right side safety lever up into safe mode a couple of times when I didn't want it to. Otherwise, there's not much not to like about the new Mark IV design, and especially these the 2245 tactical grips. I really like these grips. It's a heavy pistol at over 2 pounds fully loaded. But Ruger makes its 2245 light model also, which is considerably lighter and has everything that the tactical model has except for this lower rail. Now I'll say what I usually say when I review these blowback target style pistols based on this basic classic design. I see their 10-round magazines as a drawback compared to the Beretta M9 22 15-round magazine and the Taurus TX 22 16-round magazine, both of which, in my opinion, have as good a triggers, are more accurate and cost less, I might add. And before you say yes, but it's a Taurus, remember the Taurus TX 22 was Gun and Ammo's 2019's Handgun of the Year. Try one out before you dismiss it. I'm just saying that I'm surprised that Ruger hasn't found a way to increase round capacity in these guns. As for pros, the number one pro on the improvement of this gun is its takedown procedure. It's truly outstanding, not just compared to the previous design of this gun, but for .22 automatics in general. Normally I cover disassembly and reassembly later on, but this is just so simple for a pistol. We'll cover it now while we're discussing the gun's pros. Takedown is fairly simple. We're just going to remove the magazine, make sure that the gun is on safe, and of course we've already checked that it is unloaded. And then back here we have a takedown button. We're just going to depress that button here while we're rotating the barrel up, and it just comes off of the frame. And then we have the bolt assembly that just comes out as usual with these 22s. Reassembly is essentially just the opposite. Return the bolt assembly. Gun goes back. The barrel assembly goes back onto the frame. Is rotated back down, and that's it. Isn't that something? Continuing on with the pros about this gun, I like that you can still get most of the basic configurations of this gun that you might expect. Different barrel lengths, shapes, and formats. As usual with Rugers, the Mark IV is well made and very reliable, a solid performer. Its blowback design and solid weight, due to its all-steel construction, reduces recoil and muzzle rise to next to nothing. Accuracy is good. The sights are very good, although I'd like a bit of white around the outline of these sights. Target acquisition is good. I like the feel of this gun in my hand, and I like the control placements overall. As for the Ruger Mark IV 22-45 Tactical, I really think Ruger got the design right. I like the tactical rails, and I like that the gun comes suppressor ready. The thread protector has a spring washer that helps keeps it tightly in place, and it also worked as well for the suppressor. No loosening during use. Very nice. Everything is well placed, the gun feels solid, and its operation is very smooth. Finally, this gun is well supported in the market with lots of upgrades and accessory options out there. As for cost, the suggested retail price on the Ruger Mark IV 22-45 Tactical is $529, but I've seen them going for as low as $460. Now used, I saw one last week for $400. The light version of the Ruger Mark IV 22-45 is listed at $559. Well, to wrap it up, the Ruger Mark IV pistol and its many variations has enjoyed a pretty good place in the .22 pistol market for about 70 years. But that market has heated up over the past few decades, and Ruger needed to make some changes to stay relevant. I think the Ruger Mark IV 22-45 Tactical, although just one of the most recent variations on the Mark pistol, is a really good example of Ruger's ability to respond to the market. Okay, if I take the Mark IV 22-45 on its own and not try to get too nicky-picky as we tend to do with everything these days, it begins to have a greater appeal. Functionally, as a whole package, it really seems to work. Now maybe I'd like a higher capacity magazine, a better trigger, and a higher accuracy, but at the end of the discussion, when I'm reaching for a gun to take to the range for a day of fun, I would be very comfortable reaching for this Mark IV 22-45 Tactical for so many reasons, not the least of which is its ease of cleaning. For flawless performance, legendary reliability, superb construction, excellent grips, effective sights, well-placed and efficient controls, suppressor-ready muzzle, as well as first-rate tactical rails, this gun is not just a good practical choice, it's also a lot of fun to shoot. And just look at it. You've got to admit, it just looks cool. Now, you're probably asking, now that I've had a chance to play a bit with this one, am I going to buy one for myself? Well, to be honest, yep, I think I just might do that. Any weapon you carry is better than one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.